everyone can see me, should be able to. Those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Guy Jelley. I'm the CEO of PPO. I'm going to lead us off on our quarterly webinar today. Tarryn is going to join me from the PPO team, so she's going to cover some of the product stuff. And then we're joined also by one of our key client users today, which Tarryn will introduce a bit later, who's going to showcase some of the features and functionality. So for those of you returning and have been on previous webinars, thanks for coming back. For those of you that are new to the webinar, thanks for joining, and we hope to see you every quarter. We do these quarterly, just that we all got line of sight of these features. And I think it's just a good way to wrap up and to cover some of them. I know you've all got lots of apps you probably use and lots of products you use in your organizations, and this is just one of them. So thanks for joining us. For those of you that are doing this for the first time and missed my comment earlier, we've got a tool called Mentimeter. So the website is there, menti.com. There's a user code that you can see in the top of the screen, as well as that URL. Both the code and the URL have been posted in the comments. And we'll get to a point somewhere in the webinar where Tarryn will just run a question or two. So it's good to have that link there now, or use the code so that you don't scramble around later. The question will only get posted when Tarryn gets to it, so don't worry if you click on that and see no question yet. That's coming up. In terms of our agenda today is just a welcome and introduction, which I've done. We're going to be covering 3 or 4 key things today, and one of the big focuses is the custom lists. So a custom list, for those of you that are new to PPO, is a list of values you select, normally used on things like statuses, priorities, portfolios, departments, job titles, those type of things. And we've been doing quite a lot of changes to those over the last year, and we're wrapping up a couple of them today in the session. So we launched a big feature called multiple select custom lists, and those that have been PPO users for a long time would know that that's something you've probably been asking for a while. So we're going to cover that, but as well as some other smaller items relating to custom lists. PPO boards, or what some of you may know as Kanbans, and those of you that have used Trellos or Jiras or products like that, has been around for about 1.5 years, 2 years probably now. And we've got a specific client showcase on how that's being used. So Amy will take us through that. So it's existing functionality. You all have access to it. You all can use it. But I think there's a good use case here of how it's being used. And it's infrastructure projects as well, which is interesting. I know some clients are infrastructure-based, some are not. And then one of the new features coming up, or that was deployed very recently, is the homepage tabs that you all should have been using, or hopefully been using a copy of that and using those across different user groups. And then adding to our reporting that we've been working on for a couple of years is a new interactive heat map. So for those of you using resource allocation and those type of heat maps, there's a newer version of that. And then some Q&A, and then we'll just cover the next webinar as well. So fairly busy program today. We're gonna rush through it, but we wanted to just cover these specific items with you. And just thank you very much for Amy for joining us. Okay, we like to highlight and thank some of the new clients. So some great clients that we've joined us in the last quarter. Most of you know CCOM. I think we only hear about CCOM when our internet goes down and we all worry about the CCOM cable. Snowed and Sales Catalyst are some of the new clients that have joined us in the last quarters. Hopefully some of them are on the call. So welcome to those new clients to the PPO family, and thanks for selecting PPO. I know there's lots of products like this in the market, so it's always great. And some of these are previous users from previous organizations who've now adopted PPO at their new organizations, which is awesome. Okay, we do a lot of product development work. Most of you know the business and how we operate. We've got a full-on DevOps team. They keep the operations ticking over and the servers running, but most importantly, they keep the development of the product fresh. So this is just a view of the last quarter. When this is shared with everybody, the PowerPoint presentation and the video. If you missed any of these, or you're looking at some of these thinking, I have no idea what these are, you can go and click on it and it'll take you to the blog articles. A lot of these are just functionality to make PPO simpler and easier. So not necessarily new stuff that we've added. It's just improving some of the existing stuff. Default values as an example. We published that communication in the last quarter. A lot of times there's a default value of a field on a screen, and PPO now lets you set it. So you can set the default value of a risk to open, or the default value of a project to proposed and pre-initiating or something like that. So it makes capturing some of those initial screens a lot easier. Those of you that have used PPO for a long time, when you scroll up on reports and dashboards, sometimes the header got lost in the top. The sticky headers at the top, stick it in the top so that as you scroll. So this is just a track record. We like to keep this view. It's on our blog as well. We use it internally quite a bit. But it's just a good view of all the functionality we've deployed. Remember, we run these sessions every quarter. So this is the type of stuff that we're doing, and we'll cover the last specific stuff there is the key focus for today. If you've missed any of these, or you're not sure if you've got it, or if you need a walkthrough of it, you can reach out to your success manager or to the support desk at any point in time. That's our job. Remember, all of this functionality is deployed to all clients as it's available, and it's available to you all. It's not something extra you need to license or pay for. In some cases, you may need to activate it and start using it, but it's something that all clients have access to all the new functionality as it's been delivered. Okay, and to make sure you don't get in a situation like maybe you are now that you've missed it, the blog is the place to go. So go to ppo.com/blog. We only send a weekly email once on a Tuesday, Wednesday with the latest product news, maybe a client feature. We don't use that list for anything else. We don't run Black Friday specials or promotions or Mother's Day or anything like that. You'll only get invited to these webinars that we run on a quarterly basis, and we'll send you the blog, which has the latest articles. The best way for the administrators and owners and system people at the different organizations is to follow the blog, because then as these things are released, they're available there. You get a short description. There's normally a short video recorded by somebody in the team, and it's the best way to stay up to date. If you then need some help or assistance in accessing that, enabling that functionality, just seeing how it applies to your organization, then you're more than welcome to reach out. But we'd encourage as many of you as possible to sign up to the blog. As I said, we don't use it for other purposes. We're not going to spam you, but I think it's a good indication and a good way to switch it on. We often find, clients are amazed when they attend one of these webinars and see a Kanban board and didn't know that it was available. So following the blog is the easiest way to do that. We obviously use all the social media type stuff as well, but the blog is as I say, a simple, easy, once a week email that we'll send you with one article and a link to the next upcoming event that we're going to do. Simple as that. So those that haven't, I'd encourage you to sign up to the blog. Best way to keep aware of all these different products. We are moving fairly fast at the moment at PPO, doing quite a bit of stuff. The dev team is very busy, which means that these features are coming out almost on a weekly basis currently. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand over to Tarryn, who's going to do most of the bulk work for today. Lindy and myself will manage the chat and any questions you have. So I'm going to ask Tarryn to take over. If you do have questions or concerns or stuff, pop it in the chat, and myself and Lindy will moderate that and answer as much of it as we can during the session. And then there is a Q&A session at the end. So any questions that we don't answer during the session, if we get some time at the end, we'll open it up and have a chat. Okay, thanks, Tarryn, from the South Pole, by the looks of it today.
Thank you, Guy. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to start with the multiple select custom list feature. I'm going to spend some time on multiple select so everyone understands this feature. When I work with my clients, they always tell me that I know PPO so well, and we go through the stuff so quickly that they don't always manage to catch it. So I'm going to do my best to go through this slowly. If you've got questions, as Guys mentioned, that he and Lindy will take care of that in the chat. So what I'm going to demonstrate firstly, I'm going to use a specific project that I've got here, my time and attendance project. But what I'm going to talk you through is what you would have probably been doing before we introduced this multiple select custom list feature. So as you know, custom lists are valuable in that they help you slice and dice your data. So it makes working with your data a lot easier, specifically in reporting. So if you've got the request to send us a portfolio view only for the transform and grow portfolio type. Because it's a custom list, filtering on that specific set of projects is a lot easier. So in the absence of custom lists, being able to filter while you can do it, it becomes a little bit more complex in that you've got to create specific filters to do that if you've used a text field or if you've used a tick box field like a yes/no field. So what would have happened in the past with the single select custom list? So I'm going to show you an example where you would have a single select custom list is let's say you've got a project that belongs to, or is going to meet the objective of more than one portfolio. What the PMO would have said to you is, pick the first match, or the one that is, majority of the work is going to achieve a transform and grow objective. So best match would have been the selection. In other cases where best match selection doesn't work and you've got to specifically highlight it, like this example here for project type, you would have done something like this. You would have introduced these tick boxes, because you can have a new project that's strategic, or you could have an upgrade project that's strategic, or something like that. So something could even be upgrade and maintenance at the same time. So you would have been forced to introduce something like this, where you've got tick boxes and it supports a multiple selection. The problem with this would have been that you can't make it a mandatory field, because if you make these individual fields mandatory, it means that every one of them have got to be selected for you to submit your project. And that's not what you're trying to do. So the next best bet would be that you'd introduce some complex validation rules that says at least one option of project type must be selected when you submit. And then it gets more complex. Then you say, before you move into execution, make sure that at least one of these. So the rules can get more and more complex. So what we've now done is here's an example of exactly what I've done, is I've taken these individual tick box fields and I've introduced a new multiple select custom list, which would now allow me to select both new and strategic. I can make this selection and submit it. So you wouldn't need, so you would actually reduce inputs or fields that are multiple fields here. So you would get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields, and it's replaced by 1. The data is displayed how you would typically see data displayed when a custom list has been completed. And this is an example of a color-coded list. So I can see strategic and new color-coded. From a filtering perspective, so I'm just going to go back to my project list. You'll be able to see, firstly, if I take away the project, I've got type as a column. You can see all the values that are multiple values, so you're not forced to have multiple. Here's an example of a single value. Here's an example of multiple, and you'd be able to filter the list based on any of these types. So a while ago, maybe it's a couple months now, that we introduced the ability to filter on more than one value in a custom list. So if I were to select on type, I can select maintenance, or I can select strategic new as an example. And any of the projects that contain this value would then be shown in my list. So as long as it contains one of these values, you'll see it filtered in the list. So this one contains new, not strategic, but it's still shown. This is both strategic and new, strategic and maintenance, so you get the message. So you'd be able to use this feature that we introduced in preparation for something like this to be able to filter on more than one value. Building specific filters, so if you haven't yet gotten used to using your filter controls on your list page and you're still used to building your own filters, the same would apply. So I'm going to build a filter quickly, and I'm going to focus on strategic and new projects. Strategic/new projects. I'd be able to build my filter using the type. My operator would be contains. Strategic is my first filter item. My next filter item would be contains new. So type contains new. As I've done that, if I submit this, my valuation expression, take note of that, would be 1 or 2. and submit, and would give me the exact same result that I had when I used the filter control. So building a filter using the multiple select custom list field type was no different to what it was before. The only thing that you'd need to take note of is your evaluation expression and the operator that you've chosen to use in your filter item when building your filter item. So that's how you would implement a new a multiple select custom list field. And that use case hopefully is something that you are familiar with, where you would use all these tick boxes to be able to achieve the same kind of requirements. Other examples where you might have done something like this is on maybe a stakeholder analysis entity, if you have one. I'm going to show you a different example shortly when we look at lessons, but those are some use cases that you will start seeing that you'd maybe want to convert your single select custom list values or get rid of tick boxes and introduce something like what I've just done on the project type. Okay, so what the next thing that I'm going to show you is how you would go about converting, and this is more focused on the admins, but just so that everyone gets a little bit of attention, I'm going to show it to you on lessons. So if I were to look at my lessons entity for clients that have improved knowledge management, and that's a focus, they add their lessons, and they of course want to be able to classify those lessons, and you would want to know what are your project management lessons or what are your people lessons. But there's often cases where your lessons meet more than one type. So this is an example. If I were to just click on it and edit it, so this is an example of a type where it's a single select. So you can only select one value. To change this, I'm going to quickly show admins. Bear with me, normal users, just so you can see the impact of this. So I'm going to show you the entity is lessons. The field that I am looking for is my type. That's my field. You will notice that the field type is custom list single. Remember to admins check your field usage to make sure that it's not used in any business rules. In this case, I can see that it's not, and I'm going to convert it to a multiple custom list selection. So converting that is as easy as that. It changes, I submit. If I go back to my lesson and refresh it, I now have the ability, you can see immediately it's changed, and now I can select both project management, organization, as well as other, which is never a good idea, and submit. So that's as easy as that. What I also want to show you is that your existing data, when converting a field from single to multiple, remains intact. So there's been no loss of data by changing the field type from single to multiple. And if you do something like this and want to be able to edit your existing data, for those of you who would be doing this, you can go into your multiple edit mode. You'd be able to select the specific field you want to update, and you would make the change. It's important for me to mention this. If you have a significant amount of data and you require assistance with doing a bulk edit of this data, please reach out to the support desk. That's what they're there for. Your SM can guide you through this, and they can help bulk update existing data. The same is true if you were taking tick box fields, yes, no fields, and converting these into a multiple select custom list. Before you get rid of those tick boxes, make sure that you've either pulled you've exported a detailed report, or before you do, talk to your SM or talk to the support desk, because you do want to avoid losing data if you've gotten rid of your tick box fields before you've updated your new multiple select field. So I hope that's making sense. But if you don't have lots of data, like in the case of the lessons, I've just updated a couple here. It's as easy as going into the multiple edit mode and doing that and submitting, and that would automatically update your data. And there you can see it. So in a list, you have these field, the specific field type, lesson type, with the multiple values that I've updated. It was all updated in one go through the multiple edit. So that's your multiple select custom list. Filtering on this data I've covered. The final thing that I want to cover is a reporting impact. I'm going to use our dashboard view on our portfolio view, and I'm going to focus on the project type field that I've introduced. So I'm going to focus here on our non-admin projects. I'm going to pull this portfolio view dashboard, and what I'm expecting to see is that the project type is inserted as a column, which it is. It's a color-coded custom list, so I can see the values that have been captured, multiple values in some cases, some single, and you can see this. The one that you'd be interested in is when you choose to group by a multiple select value. So I'm grouping by type. And what would happen when I generate this dashboard view is that all the permutations of the selections will be available. So there are 3 projects that are just an operational project type. There's one where it's operational and new. There's one that's strategic, but there's another one that's strategic and maintenance. And then there's 3 that's strategic new, strategic upgrade. So every permutation of the selections will be grouped by in the particular dashboard outputs. It may impact the length of your reports depending on how many different permutations you have, but there's no real impact to your reporting apart from when you have a group by, you would see it in the fields, and it's as easy as that. I know, Victor, you had a question around it. Hopefully this answers your question. Happy for me to move on, everyone?
Sorry, quick question from our side, Taryn.
Yeah.
Denise here from AB and Bev.
Yeah.
The order that you've got it in there is strategic and new and strategic, etc. What happens if I wanted to see new versus maintenance and whatever? What defines the order that it appears? For example, strategic versus maintenance instead of maintenance versus strategic.
I suspect that the order in which it's happening is alphabetical. So here it is, that's the standard order. So there's operational comes before strategic, operational new, so that's alphabetical.
No, sorry, I'm talking about the headings. So the
the headings.
Yeah.
So same, it's alphabetical.
No, N comes before O.
M, N. Oh, yes, you're right. So I think it start with single selection first, and then single selection with the permutation. And I think that's it. But I might have to double check. Is Daniel around or somebody here from our tech support that can answer that? Is there a specific order in which it's done?
We'll get that answer for you, Denise, and pop it into the chat.
And even if you don't get it today, an email's fine. No rush. It was just out of curiosity because I know a lot of people turn around and say, "Well, I want to see all my maintenance projects," and then whether it appears strategic, new, whatever. I know people are going to ask that question.
Okay.
Just remember, on all custom lists in PPO, you can manage the sort order. So in some cases, alphabetical is more useful because it's a long list of portfolios. And then in other cases, the process is more important. So if you look at risks, they go from open to under management to closed. If you look at project phases, any report where you group by phase, it'll go in that order. So a lot of it can be driven as well by the value that you set for the sort in the custom list itself. But let's come back to you on this report. I suspect it's the use of the custom list and how the custom list is sorted. And in this case, it's a custom list sorted alphabetically, and therefore it's doing it alphabetically. But we'll come back to you with it.
Great. Thanks, Guy. Thanks, Tanya, Taryn.
Okay, happy. Okay, so the next thing that I am going to, if there's no more questions on multiple selects, I hope admins have all got the idea with how easy it would be to convert your single customer list to your multiple. The support desk is there, as I've mentioned, and of course your success manager. The next thing that I'm going to cover is retiring our custom list, and at the same time I'll touch a little bit on color coding. The use case that I'm going to refer to is again on our projects entity. So what often happens if your project, your PMO has been around for a long time, direction often changes and maybe you no longer, so let's maybe first look at what our current portfolio types are, so which portfolios we service. I'm going to go into edit mode here on this one. So I'm using one of our sample projects, and our portfolios that we service is run the business, regulatory, transform and grow. And the PMO has been around for a long time and the direction has changed, and regulatory is no longer a portfolio type that we service, and we now are focused on research and development. So what would have often happened is that the PPO administrators would find a way to update this custom list value and say do not use or something like that. And why they would have done that is because they don't want to impact historical data, because there are projects that were delivered over a period of time that were delivered for this portfolio type, and they still want to be able to filter on that data and quickly find the data in projects that have been marked as inactive. So what we've done to make it easier for you to retire portfolio types, as one example, is we've introduced a mechanism for you to retire custom list values. So I'm just going to go to custom list. This is an admin function again, but I'm going to quickly show you how it would work. So this is our project portfolio. So I'm updating this custom list value, and I want to be able to introduce a new one. And at the same time, I want to retire this regulatory one. So I'm going to click on the plus sign. That will give me the option to add a new one. Research and development is my portfolio type. So that's my new portfolio type, and this one is one that I want to be able to get rid of. To not do something like this, which you probably have seen, so there's no need to do that anymore. All you would need to do is just mark the item as inactive. This would make it possible for you to still filter on the data, and at the same time, no longer available for new projects to select. While we're on this page, something that we see that not all clients are aware of is that you do have a mechanism to color code your values. So you would have seen in my portfolio view dashboard just now when we looked at type, you could see new was color coded in green, strategic had an amber color, operational was gray. You can do the same thing on specific custom lists that you want to, draw attention to in a portfolio view report or on a list page. You've seen that with color-coded date values when the date is in the past. To do that, it's as easy as click on Show Colors. When you do that, you can see the color picker is here. If you know the code of your hex codes of your brand identity, which I think I have here for hours. I mean, you can just copy and paste the code, but if you don't know the code, so I mean, I'm just going to quickly copy mine here. So I know my brand colors here. I've got the code. I can just do something like that for my first value. I can do the next one here, which this is one I'm going to retire. And then my final one, I'll show you a different way to select it. So here, if you don't know the code, you can just use the color picker here on the side. If you find a color that you want to apply, you do something like that, or you just do what I've done here with using the drag and drop. So this was the one that I wanted to mark as inactive. and this was my research and development. So submitting this will update the custom list. You can see the active one is not shown anymore. If I go to my project's edit page and refresh that, you'll now see I've got research and development, run the business, and transform and grow. What you will still be able to do is if you did have projects in that portfolio type that has now been retired, I would still be able to filter on it. So if I go and I look for portfolio and I'm searching for regulatory, it's still available for me to filter on it. So that's retiring custom list values, color coding custom list values, and adding new ones. One more use case, which I'm going to show you, where you might it's not always clear when you'd want to use something like this, but I'm going to show it to you on your cost data. So this is what you would probably see a lot of people doing. So they still want to be able to filter on this data. They still want to see it because it's an active project that's running over multiple years, but any new cost records, you don't want them to select 2021 or 2022. So if you're adding a new cost record, what's happening now is I'm seeing these values because there's existing data, but I don't want anybody to use it. Now there's no longer a requirement for you to do something like this. You would just mark the values as inactive, and the users then would continue to make use of it. So this is an example where you might want to retire the years on your cost data. Another thing that would have been done to prevent something like this is you would have introduced a validation rule. And if you tried to submit the data, the PPO admins would have had an error message popping up that says you can't add a new record in a year that's in the past or something to that effect. So that's retiring custom list values, color coding your custom list values. And before I hand over to Amy, I just want to check if anyone has any questions. Happy. Okay. So Amy is joining us from Mediclinic. She's in the infrastructure project office, and she's kindly agreed to share her use of the interactive boards in PPO. I'm going to hand over to you, Amy. You happy to share your screen?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, perfect.
Good morning all. Just to give you a bit of background as to where I fit into Mediclinic, obviously as Tarryn-Leigh said, it's an infrastructure department. So I typically work with the projects where I'm an architect and I've got a team below me, and also are involved with over 18 of our facilities across the country. So how PPO for me is a great platform in the sense that I can, my team, which is 3 people across a lot of projects, I can have everything on one spot. And when, I'm sorry to know that the boards have been around for a year, but I got to use them just recently. But I just, from an architectural point of view and a design point of view, I found it a lot easier to visualize where and what and how much load there was in each of my team members, like what sort of load they had on each of the projects or anything else like that. So I specifically work with actions and with IRS. So in our world, actions are dealt with basically giving people instructions or receiving instructions within our company. So between project managers or between my interior designers and my architectural technologists or anybody else within our department. They give an instruction or an action to complete something or do something. And then obviously it's grouped per project. And then an IRS in our world is an information required schedule. So this typically is done between projects. So this is when consultants, outside parties, ask us for information, as in the client, or the client issues information to the consultants. So I'm just going to show you how with the actions, this is between my team and I that we go through every day. So the one thing I like about it is that I can see what's open. Color and structure for me is obviously my life, so I tend to read it a lot easier. And I find that by being able to group and see what criteria it is, to be able to see what's overdue and what's not, and percentage worked and that sort of stuff, and then be able to just quickly slide it across to say it's waiting dependency without having to change anything, or slide it back again, or go in and make a quick edit on changing on who it is or what sort of information needs to happen to it, instead of opening it all the time and finding another tab, and then you get lost on another tab and another tab and another tab, and it goes down. So weekly, my team and I go through our actions. I can show you on this one, our system of RMAD and non-RMAD is basically all in-house sort of stuff that we work with, the facilities of doctors' rooms and that sort of stuff. So this is one way to keep track of how much my team has on their plate, who has the most, how can they help each other, and what's happening, and then they can also move it across. And basically every week we go through a process of going through and having a look at each of the structures and moving them across into each thing. So if I move that across, then my team member who's in charge of that will say, okay, great, it's complete, we can understand that now. So that's actions. When it comes to projects, pretty much the same. Also with projects, what's nice is that that quick editing tool, one could see that it's to another consultant. One needs to follow up with them. I can follow up by the person that's requested it, who works with me, as to why things are taking so long, but also, just to be able to slot it along or move it along easily enough. As I say, not a million tabs going over and over and over like that. But I found in the last 6 months or so, I can't really remember, Tarryn-Leigh, but in the last 6 months or so, my usage of PPO is actually increased because of the boards. I just find it so much easier than going into the actual lists and seeing line by line by line. I prefer seeing the boards that I can quickly shuffle across and throw people out and do bits and pieces. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a bonus. We don't have other elements of we don't work directly with contractors. That's our consultants. So then they've got their own system on it as well. And also color coding is also my thing as well. I love it. I can't think of anything else, Tarryn-Leigh. I think that covered perfect. All of us. Was it? I don't know if anybody had any questions.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if anyone had any questions for Amy.
Amy, I don't know if Tarryn disclosed it to you, but we found that you're one of the top 5 users internationally of the board view, which is why we approached you. So thanks for the support of it. Even though you haven't known that it's been around for a long time, you're still up there on the leaderboard.
I tell you, I loved the change. When I saw it, my whole entire way of managing my team changed instantly. Absolutely, like within a week it changed. They also found that they could also visualize it a lot easier. So no, it's great.
And for those of you that have been PPO users for a long time, the inline editing that Amy was talking about, that ability to drag and drop it and the ability to just click and change a date, you're going to see a lot more of that coming up on PPO as well. We did a back-end technical change. We thought, let's use it on the boards first, because that's obviously the most intuitive. Yes. I was actually at a workshop this morning at a client and I demonstrated dragging it, and the PMO manager said, does that actually change the status? I said, yes. And he was a bit ashamed that he actually figured out today for the first time that you can actually drag a risk or an issue from open to closed, and it updates it and it's done, and the person gets the email and all the rest of it. And just remember as well, I mean, Amy showed you there on the actions and what they do with the IRSs. You can apply this to anything. So we've got clients who do portfolio reviews, and they use the demand entity for, or the pipeline entity for ideas on projects. And when they agree to start projects, they move it from proposed to approved. So you can apply those board views to tasks and risks and projects and issues and actions in any one of them. So we've specifically built that functionality in a way that you can apply to all your data. It sounds silly, but you can board view your resources if you wanted to. So we've made it generic to support that Kanban approach, but across anything. You don't have to only apply it to sprint tasks or tasks. You can apply it to risks or issues, or as you saw now, IRSs. So yeah, I think a useful way to do that. Any other questions? Okay, thanks very much, Amy, for
only
the
a pleasure.
showcase.
Only a pleasure.
Okay, I see that we've got about 17 minutes left, and I've got 2 more features to cover, and of course, 1 question for all of you. So I'm going to not take as much time as I did with multiple select, but I'm going to cover the new copy homepage tab feature. This was something that was deployed as recently as yesterday. So if you didn't see your in-app notification and you are signed up to the blog, you will receive the newsletter tomorrow, and that feature will be covered there. But of course, it's already available on the blog. I'm going to start again with the PPO administrators, so you guys will be able to see how this works for you, which I believe will save your lives. Under administration, you have the widget configuration tab, where all your dashboard views have been built. So let's just say, as an example, you are sitting in the PPO administrators user group. This is what your dashboard view looks like. And the reason for that is because you provide an oversight role in terms of compliance and checking that the portfolio is delivering as expected. So you see the metrics that are related to all projects. But very often there's PPO admins that sometimes have the responsibility of managing projects themselves, but they don't have the project manager view available on their home page. So what we've now made it easier for you to do is to copy, which is this new tab. So you can copy from the project manager user group. You can see the paste button is immediately available on the same tab, but I don't want to paste it here. I want to paste it on the existing PPO administrator dashboard setup. So I'm going to paste it there. It creates a new page, so a new tab, and you've got an additional tab. I don't want to call it dashboard. I want to call it my PM hat. So this is when I'm wearing my PM hat. I can also move it. So I'm moving it there. So you can see it's now next to my original one, and I can even change the name of this one if I wanted to. So now saving this will save the view. But the one last thing that I want to quickly do is I want to go back to my PM hat, and I want to adjust my filters accordingly. So I want to be able to change this, my projects, and they have, so it's actually all there. I don't need to do anything further. So all the existing filters and widget settings would apply. So in a PPO administrator group that still has the responsibility of managing projects, have an additional PM dashboard view. If I go back to my home page and refresh it, I now have that view available to me as well. So in my role as a project manager, I have my projects. I sometimes sit as a sponsor or owner on these projects. I have 4 projects versus my original view where I provide an oversight function for the PMO. In addition, if you are a normal user, all's not lost, you have exactly the same functionality. So forgetting about the PPO admin access that can copy and paste these and apply them to the different user groups, users themselves can do the same thing. So here, even though I'm in the PPO administrator group, I'm a user still. I can edit my homepage here, and I can actually take this dashboard view, copy it, because I've been given a new task, and I'm now responsible for providing oversight to a specific program. So there's our business and market growth program, and it's a little bit in trouble, and they want us to focus on the projects in that program and check what the governance and data quality is like on that program. So there, I'm going to quickly, I've copied the original dashboard, I've pasted it, I've got a business and market growth program, and now I can adjust my filters to only focus on that program. So there's my business and market growth program, which is just these 5 projects. I can hide the filter and apply the same thing. So watch how the values change as I apply that specific filter, and there it does that for you. So it's exactly the same homepage dashboard setup, but I didn't need to go and recreate the view. I used the copy tab, I've pasted it, and I didn't need to spend the time creating the panels, adding the widgets, setting up the widget settings, and doing all of those good things. It's now there for me. I can save it, and I've got multiple tabs. My original dashboard view, my PPO administrator one, my PM hat, my home page, which we left the same, and this is my business and market growth program check. And that's copying your homepage tabs. Don't forget, you can have as many tabs as you want. Other use cases for this, so not focusing on a PPO administrator. So somebody like a team member or project manager. For a team member, maybe you want to have a tab per project. So maybe you're working across multiple projects. You maybe got 10 of them, and you want to have 10 tabs, and you want to focus your view on each project. You can have 10 tabs with the 10 views of your original dashboard view. As a project manager, maybe you want to have tabs for the different portfolios that you're delivering projects for. So a project manager will have run and grow portfolio tab, and run the business or something like that. So you'd have tabs for each portfolio, or you could have tabs for each department. You might be delivering finance projects or PMO projects or IT projects. You can have multiple tabs for that as well. So that's the copy homepage tab. Any questions before I move on to our last feature? Good. Okay, so the feature that I'm going to cover is our interactive heat map. It's important to note that we've always supported heat maps. The way in which they were generated or visualized in PPO was slightly different, but we've improved that through our new reporting component that we've introduced a couple of months ago, maybe even probably a year by now, which allowed you to drill down, click through, view the data in full screen. So it came with additional features where a lot of our reports in the past were static. The heat map has been improved, and I'm going to show you an example where this heat map would be useful. So a heat map allows you to concentrate or show the intensity of your data. It supports color coding of the values, and then it shows how important or how intense that data set is based on the values that have been selected. So it's useful to see on a risk dashboard where you have, as it does its thing, where you would have your risk probability versus your impact. So you're seeing the probability of the risk down here, and you're seeing the impact across. What you can now see, which was not possible before, is a pop-up of the specific data set. So what I'm seeing is that I have one risk of a rating of 8. Why do we have 8? Because it's impact times probability. Our impact is 2 minor, as you see it. Our probability is 4, which is likely. So we have one risk with a rating of 8, and you can of course see its color coding. As you move through each cell, you can see at the bottom here this color coding legend. It moves as you navigate to each data set. So this is an example of how this heat map has improved. If you've got something like this in your existing risk reporting, it may be something where you chat to your SM about converting it to the new heat map. This is something that is work in progress, so you will see notifications about this in the next 2 weeks or so. But Daniel is hard at work, and this will be available on existing reports and dashboards. So this is one use case for it. Another use case for it, which may be familiar to you, would be on your planning dashboard. So I'm going to quickly start with what you're used to seeing. So on an existing planning dashboard, you would have this additional report parameter here to show planned percentage of capacity or planned hours. When you generated the report, so we'll look at the heat map at the bottom now. You would see the heat map, because I've grouped by a department. You can see the department slice, the resources in that department. Here's an example of the drill down. So that resources allocated to these projects, and you can see their planned hours allocation. Because I've pulled a report, planned percentage of capacity, you would expect to see that the heat map is shown based on capacity. And this is what the heat map looks like today. This is what you're used to seeing. How this is improved, so I'm going to quickly show you the new planning dashboard with the new heat map. You'll notice it's not necessary to have that additional parameter to show as either planned percentage of capacity or planned hours. And the reason for that, just so I shut down some of these things, is because on the new heat map, it shows both values. So you can see the hours as well as the planned percentage of capacity. You will also see the color coding and the scale moving as you navigate on the cells. So planned hours by department is the heat map shown here. Another use case quickly, I know we're running out of time, but I'm looking at over allocations by resource, and I can see over allocations by resource here. I don't have any allocations in months past June, and I can see these are the 3 resources that are planned in excess of their capacity. So that's an example of where you can apply a heat map. Another quick example is if you want to see a heat map of progress variance across the various portfolio types. Immediately you can see that one of the strategic, this would be Transform and Grow would be considered a strategic portfolio. And you can see that's our portfolio that's in trouble because the color coding is based on the variance. So this project has achieved an actual progress of 38%, but it's behind by 36.4%. So the color coding is based on the variance, and what is in the block is showing us our actual progress. So this is an example of visualizing how much in trouble this portfolio is in based on the variance. So here are some examples of how you can apply a heat map to your existing data. I've covered a risk dashboard, planning information using resource allocations. You could apply it to cost data. You could apply it to task data, but these are just some examples. And I think that is it. Don't think I've left anything out. Questions, but before we get to questions, we would love for you to please rate our session and tell us what you thought of it. That Menti code is where it's going to be really useful now, is if you can just pop in your response to the question that is on screen. And that's it.
Just a reminder, you can use the link that Lindy's posted in the chat, or you can just go to menti.com and then punch in that code. Where the Tarryn comes back next quarter is determined a lot based on the value she gets today.
That's very cool.
Well, in that case, A 1. Give me a 1.
For those of you that have been here for a long time, this is very much Taryn's domain. So she always does these product webinars for us. She's going nowhere soon. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining today. We've got a couple of minutes left. We have answered some of the questions in the chat and shared some links with you. There is another slide at the end of this session, but Taryn will just leave it on here for now, which is a link to all the articles that covers all the stuff we covered today. So it surprises us fairly regularly when clients say, yes, they didn't know this functionality was available and it's been there for a year or two. So we're going to share those resource articles with you. And that was the blog article that was published at the time we deployed that. Some organizations are quick and early adopters. Some take a bit of time. Some have strong enterprise PMOs that go across various project offices and need to collaborate and communicate with each other to decide what to use and how to use it. So everybody moves at their own pace, but the functionality is all there and available to any one of you. So anything you saw today, with the exception of the heat maps, which is coming, as Taryn said, in the next 2 weeks, is all available today already for you. If you're not using it or you can't find it or you don't have access to it, it's one phone call to your success manager, hopefully you know who that is, or to the PPO support desk, and we'll help switch it on, activate it, and get going. But the resources and all the articles of this, we've either shared in the chat or is going to be shared in this presentation. And the best thing, again, just sign up to the blog. As I said, one newsletter you get on a weekly basis, and it covers the latest feature with a short video, so that you stay up to date and that you follow these things. Okay, we're going to stick around for a couple more minutes. Those of you that are dropping off, thanks for joining. We will share the presentation shortly with all of you. If you've got colleagues or friends who couldn't attend today, please share it with them. If you're a PMO person and you've got a whole bunch of project managers, share it with them as well. Amy, thank you very much for joining us.
It was fun.
Good stuff.
I've got lots more to learn.
Keep coming back. So if you keep coming back, that's awesome.
Cool.
Are you in the office today, Amy? Or are you working from home?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be in the office tomorrow and Friday.
I'm going to leave you something there in the office because I'm going to your office just now. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. And if you've got a story to tell like Amy, or you've got a feature that you think you're using well or that you'd like to showcase, please reach out to us. We are surprised every now and again with how people use our product and what they do with it. So yeah, so if you do have something, please share it with us and we'll work with you to get you into our next webinar. Next webinar, September, I believe, Taryn, 18th, if I remember correctly.
I'll tell you right now. Yes, I think it is the 18th. Yes,
so we also only do these.
Right.
Okay, so we also do these webinars on a quarterly basis, so we don't spam you lots of times. So 18th of September, it's lunchtime, 1 o'clock, so local South African time. So yeah, you can put that in your diary already. You can actually go to the website. It's already on the website where you can pre-register, and the content that we'll cover there, we'll update that closer to the time. Lindy has shared that webinar there. So thanks everyone for joining us, those that are still around. And we will stick around for those that still want to ask some questions or stuff. And any other chats we'll cover in the chat. Thanks, Amy, and thanks, Taryn, and thanks to the DevOps team. I know you guys are on the call here, and I know you all hide behind your cameras, but thanks for all the hard work you guys put in. I think you can see the appreciation from our users here today.
That was great, guys. Thanks a million.
Hi, Guy. Can I unmute and ask a question?
More than welcome to. How are you?
I'm good. I'm obviously I'm from Ghana, so 2 hours behind.
Yeah.
And yeah, really excited with the dashboard view. I'm also a dashboard person like Amy, and definitely a Kanban lover. In one of the sections, so I'll be asking some pretty green questions because I'm now like getting in the flow with PPO. So I have a very specific question, a very specific need, and don't know if this is the right time to ask.
Yeah,
you're more
than welcome.
Yeah, I would like to make use of the bubble charts in PPO. I find myself getting the information outside PPO and then creating my own bubble charts in Excel. is there a chance to just run me through how it works and then I could just manipulate it from there?
Yeah, so we introduced the bubble charts. Well, PPO has had bubble charts for many years, but we've recently changed the reporting engine and we've got much better bubble charts and interactive and drillable and all the rest of it. I've popped my email address in there. Do you work for AB InBev?
No, Old
Old
Mutual.
Mutual, Old Mutual. I
Yeah.
suspected one of the two. Okay, so I've popped my email address into the chat there, but I think you should have it anyway. If you pop me a mail with the current bubble charts that you're creating, we'll get one of our technical team one of the support team to hook up with you and get that bubble chart into PPO for you in a dashboard or something like that you can then use. Most times we battle with clients to get the data to support the reporting they want. The fact that we already have the data and you're extracting it and then doing that outside tells me that your data is already sorted. And I know the organization you work for has a high level of data integrity and maturity. So I think you're good from a data point of view. So if you can just share with us what you've got, we'll get Lindy, who heads up the support team, to get one of the team to connect with you, and then pop it into PPO for you. And then it's there. The bubble chart you can also do in such a way that you can change the X and the Y axis and those type of things. So you can have the ability when you run the report to say, I want my X axis to be this and my Y axis to be this, and different views of it for the different ones as well. So some flexibility there. But pop over what you have. We'll set up a quick Teams call with you. It's literally a couple of hours to get that thing in. So it's very simple these days to do that. And we take it from there. So easy to do. Pop me a mail with it and we'll get that into a ticket and we'll very quickly help you with that one. And once you've got it in your space, I know you guys work, each country does their own thing, but you work across the continent. That same bubble will then be available to your other colleagues in the other markets. So they'll be able to use that same bubble as well. So you'll get some value out of using that across the different markets as well, which I think is useful.
Great. I think I've already noticed the bubble chart, so let me play around with it first.
You will there are already existing bubble charts, but if there's one specifically that you like that you build in, or that either it's a matter of us modifying the existing chart to support the X and Y axes that you're using, or just to do a new one. So, but we'll reach out to you. We've got your contact details, and then let's set something up and quickly do it. It's, one of the benefits of PPO is to get the reporting out all the time you spend putting the data in. And that's why we did a lot of work on the reporting engine recently, was to improve that. So, we don't want to add workload by pulling the data out and then doing it outside. We can put that directly in PPO for you.
Most definitely. I just saw the bubble chart today, like whilst the presentation was going on. So I think I'm just totally excited, especially with the multiple dashboards. So I'll play around with it, then I'll reach out if I'm stuck. I have a feeling I'll figure it out.
Yeah. You've also got good administrators in your space, so they know the system very well. So you can reach out to them as well. They'll be able to point you out to. I know they head up and drive out some of the new reports and those type of things as well. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Guy. But I'll keep you posted, so at least you know what happened.
Good
Appreciate
stuff.
it. Thanks.
Excellent.
Bye.
Cheers.